Peace to the saints. This is a very unique live session that we're doing. It's on a figure that I admire. Sometimes you may respect someone for what they accomplish, and other times you respect someone for daring. So often we fail to dare in this world. We fail to give it a try because we're concerned with not winning or being embarrassed. Really, those are the losers in our world. The winners are the ones who give it a shot. The funny thing is, when you hear this concept of YOLO, it really only comes in times where people want to engage in hedonism and filthy behavior. You rarely hear people talk about YOLO when it's time to start a business. You rarely hear people talk about YOLO when it's time to do the right, upright, moral thing. So, for those of you who are here with me, we have the hustlers. I appreciate you. It will be my pleasure to have this conversation and to facilitate you through an analysis of John Delorean, who is in fact the original Elon Musk. And what I mean is he's the guy who came onto the car scene, a younger guy. He was had some excitement around him, but the difference between him and Elon Musk is that he was actually duly qualified. He had a significant pedigree in the automotive industry, whereas Elon Musk didn't. He's been able to get into certain industries and businesses using business skills, but not necessarily expertise in that particular vertical. So this, ladies and saints, this promises to be a very fulfilling, fascinating conversation. And we can go through the whole conversation if you would like. We'll decide based on your interest as demonstrated by your support using comments, questions, tuition, and tithes with this information below. Here we go.
That could say, not since Walter Chrysler has anyone as well prepared sought to enter the auto industry.
I want to point out one thing, and your name is so important. He said Walter Chrysler. You see, we're in a time in America where America is on the decline, and we're living off of the accomplishments of our forefathers, so to speak. And so often the person who something was named after isn't alive, and we forget that it's named after a person, like Ralph Lauren, named after a person, Gucci, named after a family name. The guy mentioned Mr. Chrysler, which is Chrysler Cars. And so this is a callback to a previous era where men were great and men's names mattered. So that's a really exciting thing. And I encourage all of you to make a phenomenal, strong name and family.
He was the guy who brought a dream, and we all lived that dream. We all felt part of that dream. It was our dream.
I felt that I
just want to note real quick. It was said of Muhammad Ali with the people who were around him, his trainer, his cut man, they said, you know, Muhammad Ali was so great that it was great just to be a part of his rise. Sometimes you're not the number one guy. Sometimes you're the number two, the number three, the number four, and that's okay. Which is to say, you don't have to be the founder of the business. You don't have to be the CEO of the business. If you can get in with someone who's really smart, they know how to hustle, they know how to raise capital, they know how to sell and engage in business development, they got good networking connections. As the 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 member of the company, you will be a multimillionaire. So be smart, recognize people who have talent, and be willing to occupy the appropriate space in the hierarchy and win with them.
would help myself, I would help my company, and I would help that bunch of people. And for a while, it turned out that way.
It wasn't like another Ford Escort been built. This was something different.
Having led us up the garden path, he suddenly went to a stage where he hadn't got any money at all.
That's an important piece. This guy went from being the standout guy in the automotive industry, being an executive, making very good money, dating models, being world famous, doing international $100 million deals, to being arrested and kind of dying as a nobody in what would relative to what he used to be considered poverty. So it is an extraordinary fall from grace. But I tell you what, real hustlers, we don't look down upon that. Just the fact that you got to the mountaintop is phenomenal. I'd rather live for a day as a lion than a whole life as a sheep, which is what most people do. And so this is a great story, at some level a cautionary note, but there's so much to learn, and you got to give the world a go. Don't just participate in the world, create the world.
Knew then that he was not a man to rely on.
This is the tale of the biggest car crash in automotive history. The story of how a modern-day Machiavelli spent £85 million of taxpayers' money in pursuit of his dream of building a stainless steel sports car. Nearly a quarter of a century ago, the only sports car ever built in Ireland.
So this right here, this is called Gullwing. There is a Gullwing car that you can get now if you got $3 or $4 million laying around. It's a Mercedes, an antique, a classic. It's rightly called an antique, and it still has the Gullwing, and it's going for several $1,000,000. This is something that your boy Elon Musk copied and put on that atrocious SUV van-looking Tesla thing. But John Delorean had unique talents and an eye for design and the ability to embrace risk at a level that was really unheard of during his time. I can really identify with him as one who respects style, taste, beauty, and elegance, but also really prioritizes function. What I like about what he did is that he created this car, and you've seen this car before if you've seen the film Back to the Future. This car's really featured prominently in that film because it looked so futuristic. So a car that was actually in production was featured in a film about cars of the about a car from the future, so to speak. That's how impressive it was in its appearance. And he made it stainless steel, which I really admire because, logically, there's no real reason to paint the car because the stainless steel is going to wear better over time. You're not going to get chipped paint and all these other things. So I thought it was a fascinating concept, and it really points to his focus on utility, on the car looking good over time, on the car being different, on the car's actual true style being the selling point as opposed to the facade and the thin veneer of beauty with just nice paint. It's the actual design of the car. It's the mechanics of the car, the aerodynamics. So he was great at what he chose to do. That's something I encourage those of you who would like to truly be successful. Find something where you go in there and you're the John DeLorean. People are looking at you like, oh man, that kid's a genius. You won't be a genius at everything, but you can find something where you have a unique level of interest, a unique insight, a unique talent, or you love it so much you became obsessed and you develop skills, a skill level that is rare. That's what you need to be pushing for. May I acknowledge, shout out to Psych Crowd, just became a new member. Shout out to Soul is supporting the work. May I also acknowledge Fox writes, a name is worth a dynasty. Peace of the Saints. Oh, indeed. Shout out to Tony writes, last live. I also do very well on dating apps, and the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Bruh, you trying to tell me? In fact, one thing I didn't mention in that last live is a lot of these chicks are mentally ill. The ones that you find on the dating apps, oh, I mean, in a literal sense, like they're on pharmaceuticals to keep them from bouncing off the walls. It's unfortunate, and especially because some of them be having them big old yayas, but be mentally ill. He writes, however, do you think creating an app that auto swipes and sends messages would be profitable? Well, it would not be a good use of time because whatever technology you use and you plug into the API for Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge, eventually your app is going to be obsolete or you'll have to keep updating it. There's actually, labor in the third world is cheap enough that you could actually just hire someone to do that. And furthermore, I don't think humankind is trying to get better at dating apps. I think it's fundamentally flawed. And there will be something better, but I don't think that's it. The reason I say that to you is from a business perspective, understanding both markets and human nature. Henry Ford was asked, he said, if I ask people what do they want, now Henry Ford is the great American car maker. He said they would ask for faster horses. They wouldn't think of a car, which is like the next thing. They would think of, what do I have? Let me improve what I have, which is faster horses. And what you're suggesting right now is less so innovation. You're just trying to improve a guy's efficiency on the mobile application, which the question is like, well, what's the next level to get the guy what they really want? And also to make sure that it's worth your efforts from a business perspective. He writes, if so, don't you have a course for that? I do have a course on how to create and monetize your own app. I don't necessarily think that's the right app, but as I tell you guys in business, you only have to get it right one time. And most importantly, you're probably not going to get it right the first time. You need practice. So you need an idea that makes sense to you, that's believable, that is based on something you're familiar with, and then you put in the work and see what you can do. The good news is that though I am expert on mobile application and web application revenue models, meaning making it profitable, I'm not all knowing in terms of what's going to win and what's not going to win. If you would have told me that Twitter would be a successful business, I would have said absolutely not. It's merely a Facebook status update that is public. It sounds like the most idiotic idea on earth, but somehow it became a news platform, and I guess people make money on it nowadays. So I couldn't have predicted that, because the stupidity of humankind, I have trouble keeping a grip on. So doesn't mean your idea is not going to work, just means that it's not a clear, obvious win, and the revenue model might be a little bit challenging. But yes, I do have a course on that, and I highly recommend the course as it's done by one of the best. It's called How to Create and Monetize Your Own App. And the important part in the software business is not creating the technology, it's monetizing the technology, making money off of it, which is to say most of you are watching me right now for free. YouTube does not charge you a penny. You use Facebook for free. You use Instagram for free. So you're going into an industry where everything is free. So the real trick is, how do you get people to pay for value? Because Facebook is a very sophisticated technology and you still get it for free. So how do you build something that's not as good as Facebook, but get paid, unlike Facebook? Come on now. You dig? Yes, indeedy. May I acknowledge via Venmo, shout out to Emmanuel, very consistently supporting the work. We appreciate you. May I also acknowledge JVR, writes, tuition came in via PayPal. May I also acknowledge Kevin, writes, support. Shout out to Mr. Gardner. He writes, peace of the saints, quote, I'd rather live one day as a lion than my whole life is a sheep, end quote. MDV, Mr. Burton, you just dropped another gem. Appreciate you. May I acknowledge Emmanuel came right back. He writes, peace of the saints, emailed you a question. And I see the email here. He writes, I have a question. This is unrelated. I am a sports therapist, and we have seasons that have the highs and lows. We are in a low season, but I know money has just moved to different locations. That's correct. Doesn't disappear, right? Matter is neither created nor destroyed. He writes, what are some ways to find where the money is moving? I live in NYC. NYC, anytime you have a highly populated city, Cairo, New York City, what have you, Bangkok, you name it, any city in India, you have access to a huge consumer base. And it's almost hard to fail if you have a great product, because you're getting foot traffic in many cases. So my first question to you would be, okay, if you have a seasonal business, you say it's seasonal. Well, the first question is, why is it seasonal? What do you know about your consumer base? So if you're saying it's seasonal and it turns out that all of your clients are baseball players, well, yeah, we know that they're going to get injured during certain times of the year when they're most active, and that's when you're going to get high volume of business. So then you say, okay, well, what other sporting clubs operate at a high level outside of baseball season? So I want to also capture them as customers. So the best business advice I can give those who have a business that is working, so to speak, is to ask yourself, well, what is already working for me? How do I double down on that? So the first thing you need to do is understand who's currently buying from you. And then when they stop, the question is, why do they stop? And then understanding who is their parallel. For example, if you're a sports therapist and you work with all baseball players, well, then the question is, well, why don't I work with football players? Or are there other sports where there's higher numbers of injuries, where the injuries are chronic, or when the season goes year round, like boxing? Does boxing have a season? Does boxing ever stop? Are there enough boxers? And also the question is not only can I duplicate the demographic of people I serve, like is there a parallel demographic? But the other question is, am I operating at the top? Meaning, are there people who do this that are far more cash liquid and they can spend more? They can pay for a higher ticket item, or they can pay for the same item at a higher cost. So what I'm saying to you is this: if you're either a freelancer or an entrepreneur, a freelancer. You're either providing a service or you're doing a product-based business. Sounds like you're more so on the service side. And with that being the case, you can't say you have 100 clients and you can only serve so many clients as an individual sports therapist, right? So if you know that your maximum is 100 clients, then your goal is not to get more clients because you can only work so many hours. Your goal is to replace the current 100 clients with clients who can pay more money. That's what you're actually trying to do. So a little bit of food for thought.
Ceased production. The car was as controversial as it was non-conventional. Gull-wing doors, stainless steel skins, and a cost to the taxpayer of around.
So I want you guys to note that piece about the product. He said the product was controversial. Why was it controversial? Because it was different. He tried to do everything different. You look at it, every car has paint except his. That's called a unique value add. If you want a car that's stainless steel, that was the only one you can get. Every other car has traditional doors, or they might have rear hinge doors, which is what you would see on the Rolls Royce. You saw maybe 2 versions of the Lincoln had the rear hinge doors. And I think maybe a Cadillac or 2 had rear hinge doors. So those were the only 2 variations. Then he came out with the gull wing doors. Way different. Those are called unique value adds. You can't copy it. You can't go get it anywhere else. If somebody sees you pull up and the doors go up crazy like bat wings, people say, whoa. If you want doors like that, you must buy John Delorean's car. You cannot buy anyone else's door. Anyone else's car. If you want rear hinge doors today, you pretty much have to buy the Rolls Royce if you're buying a new car. But if you want rear hinge doors, you could buy the Rolls Royce, or you can buy an older version of a Lincoln. Certain Lincolns had them. You could buy some older versions, some antique Cadillacs. I think there's 2 of them that had them. But so there's a few options, but not many. So your goal is to offer a unique value that is valuable enough that it attracts customers and they cannot go anywhere else because you're the only one that offers that particular value. Yes, indeed. We're going to talk business today. We're going to get this money. I'm going to make you rich. You dig? Shout out to the Noble one supporting the work. And Tyree as well writes, peace to the saints, to the warrior king. Shout out to Payne supporting the work. Very consistent as well. And Daniel writes, good morning. Where can I find the black gym shorts with the logo? Can't seem to find them. That is at sasnbrand.com. That's SASNbrand.com. For all of you who show up to my events, please do make sure that you have those or the black sweatpants. For those who are coming to the big game conference, I recommend the black sweatpants because we will be outside in grass. We'll be playing football. You may have a little tumble, and it's better to have your legs covered. So I would say long sleeve, long pants. That does not mean that it will not be a warm temperature. It will be a warm temperature. It may bust out raining during the game, and that is going to be some awesome footage. So do know the game will go on. You dig? Anyways, sasnbrand.com. That is the product that you're looking for. I recommend everyone have that in all of your sections. You guys are exercising on a regular basis. You will show up in all black, and those are the uniform shorts. Thank you for asking.
275 million pounds in today's money. It was the Delorean DMC-12.
It's the first time I've driven a Delorean. I've obviously heard lots about them over the years, especially when the factory started up here. There was a lot of excitement in Northern Ireland about building a sports car. I think the look of the car is fantastic. It still looks very striking today.
Designed as a sports car for the masses, its future-proofed film star looks fast-tracked it on the road to stardom.
You may have heard them mention during this documentary that this car was produced in Belfast, even though the entrepreneur is an American. The reason it was produced in Belfast is because he did something that I did during my time of raising significant amounts of capital for a capital intensive business. Generally, software is not capital intensive, but in my case, we had hardware, which made it capital intensive. Still pretty good profit margins. But I had to go around the United States and as well around the world to bring in the amount of capital that I needed. And this is something that I talked to you guys about: people, places, positions. People, places, positions, places. Sometimes you might be in one place that doesn't value your skill set, doesn't value your demographic, doesn't value fill in the blank. And you move to another place and you're like, whoa, the whole world is opened up to me. This is kind of like the arbitrage that the passport bros are taking advantage of, right? You know, they can't get the girl they want in America, so they go to Colombia and they get the girl that they want, right? So people, places, positions, places matter. Places matter. And in his case, he was working on deals around the world. I do have conference 3 where I talk about negotiations, critical skill in business and in life. He was a great negotiator. He negotiated with several different countries to basically pull out some capital from that government and that people, and then thereby put in factories, hire people, and build this car. He ended up doing it in Belfast, which is very unusual in general for cars, but specifically for exotics, supercars, race cars, things like that. You know, you usually expect these things to come out of Italy. You know, you expect your Ferrari or Lamborghini, these kind of things. And so it was in a place that was kind of out of the way, but that's because That's what he had to do to make things happen. And that's what life is about, moving and shaking. And he's a great mover and shaker. And that's precisely why I want to bring his story to you and his lessons. May I acknowledge via PayPal? Shout out to Josiah. He writes, support, appreciate you. May I also acknowledge Joshua sending it in. Shout out to those of you who have hit the like button and those of you who have not. Now is an opportunity to do something that costs you nothing, but benefits all of us.
I mean, look at that. There's really been nothing since that looks as futuristic and
I would challenge that the i8, which I own, the i8 looks as futuristic. That's one of the cool things about the i8 is that when I got it, even with the years going on, because it had the I don't even know what those are properly called, and I don't want to say the word that the colloquial word, but the doors that open vertically, and also the general aesthetic and shape of the body. It was shaped like a mid-engine car. It was a hybrid car. Like you don't really see supercar style cars that are hybrids. So it looked very futuristic, which is really cool because you could have an i8 that's a 2020, a 2020, and it still looks fresh and new, whereas other cars will look fairly dated. So that lets you know someone's doing something right from a design and aesthetic standpoint. Carrying on.
as worthy of space travel as this.
I'm going to take a little joyride.
With extraordinary vision, Delorean saw riot-strewn West Belfast not as a hindrance, but as a glorious opportunity. He was going to build a car in a state-of-the-art factory, make a lot of money, and have his name mentioned in the same breath as Enzo Ferrari and Ferdinand Porsche. He almost succeeded.
If this had been a Ferrari instead of Ferrari badge on it, it would have sold.
One thing I also want to note for you guys is that he's talking about Enzo Ferrari and Porsche and all this stuff. These are all things named after men. Gucci, Ferrari, Ralph Lauren, all this stuff named after men. Ford, Chrysler. Nowadays, if you name something after yourself, you have the beta males and the weak males who are like, oh, you're a narcissist. It's actually been tradition. It's been Western tradition to name things after yourself as a man. I name my wife after me and she's an adult. Name your children after you. Name your companies after you because a man's name matters. It only doesn't matter when you're a weak male. Don't ever listen to them. They'll give you bad advice to undo you so that you lower to their level. But notice, in this golden age of years past, decades past in the West, you name things after yourself as a man. When you do something impressive, you put your name on it because you're proud. Shout out to Mr. Nyobese, writes, Peace of Saints. In one of the Sunday service videos, it was mentioned that instead of focusing on correcting your weakness, you should focus on strengthening your strengths. Could you elaborate on this idea? Sure, in brief. Many of the things that you find challenging are because of your wiring. It's not inherent to you, which is to say that if you have someone who is inherently great at basketball, like the first time they picked up a basketball, they had a fingertip feel for it, Fingerspitzgefühl, as the Germans would say. It was more natural to them. Or if the first time you started boxing, you were naturally elusive and quick. If you train hard for 10 years and someone else who was not a natural trains hard for 10 years, the person who was a natural is going to be ahead, even though you both trained vigorously. So the idea is that if you work hard on your talents, things you're naturally gifted at, you're going to have a multiplier effect in terms of your outcome. Conversely, if you work really hard at things that you're deficient in, it may never change, or it will improve slowly, when in reality, it might be wiser to just outsource that to someone who likes doing it or who's good at it. For example, males develop executive functioning later in life slower than females. Executive functioning, the ability to be organized and things like that, manage small tasks. So my executive functioning developed pretty slowly. And I was always very aware of it. And so instead of trying to get good at being organized and managing all of my assignments and all of my papers in school, I figured out that I didn't have to do that. So when I got to the University of California, Berkeley, instead of taking typical courses, I would read through the syllabi and I would find the courses where there was only a midterm examination and a final examination, meaning there's 2 tests. Whatever you do in between is up to you. I'm not going to give you pop quizzes. I'm not going to give you a bunch of random assignments, homework, none of that, which meant for me that I didn't have to remember. I didn't have to be organized. I just had to know there's 2 times that I need to perform and I need to be prepared for those 2 big games, and I can handle the pressure. Some people can't handle pressure. I can handle pressure. Some people can't handle small tasks. I'm one of them. I can't handle small tasks. It's irrelevant. It's not interesting. I forget about it. Not organized enough. So instead of trying to become organized, I picked courses that I didn't need to be organized in. And then when I went into business, I hired women who are very detail oriented and very organized to keep me on track instead of me trying to pretend to be something I am not, which is highly organized. It's not the case. So that's the argument, which is, do what is easy for you, become great at that, become highly paid at that, and then leverage your capital and the people around you to support you in the areas in which you are not strong. Hope that makes sense. Carrying on.
The story begins 3,000 miles away in another industrial city, Detroit, car capital of America and home of some of the biggest gas guzzlers on the planet. John Zachary Delorean was its rising star.
Well, I was a pretty talented engineer. I still am. Today, I don't think there's a car running anywhere in the world that doesn't have something that I created on it, even.
What you want to notice consistently about these high performers is the level of belief, the level of confidence. Bro said, and this is when he was no longer engineering directly, he says, I was a rising star. I was a great engineer, which is actually a fact, side note. And he says, and I'm still a great engineer. And then he said, there are no cars on the road that I haven't touched in some way, giving himself credit, which is probably due credit. But the level of self-belief, self-commendation is consistently high in those who perform at the high level. It's the losers that try to dim your light because they are not stars and they don't want you to be a star, because when you shine, they become invisible. You heard me? It's the old story of the weak male. So your goal is to know that you have the goods and to deliver the goods, and you don't have to make any apologies about it. You're going straight to the top. Huh? Yes, indeedy. May I also acknowledge via shout out to Martin, just became a member at patreon.com/the Saint in the Center. Shout out to Daniel and Andre. Looks like Daniel just grabbed his uniform shorts. I also acknowledge Andre, who got the joggers. I actually have on those joggers right now because I'm going to get this workout in as soon as I finish. You heard me? Yeah, I'll be ready out here. Yes, indeed. In a real way. I'm staying prepared out here, man. So shout out to the folks who are getting that drip together. We always move as a unit. So, make sure that you're a part of this team, part of this thing of ours. He also grabbed a tank top. Looks like he got the Hustle Day tank top. It says holiday, has it crossed out, it says Hustle Day. And really, that's the way it should be every day. And shout out to Daniel, who just got the Assassin or Nothing tank top. I actually got that one as well. I got all the ones that were named.
And now I was the youngest vice president General Motors ever had. It's the youngest group executive they ever had, the youngest head of Pontiac, the youngest chief engineer, the youngest head of Chevrolet.
Talk it.
He was the youngest general manager by far, and I don't think anybody had ever achieved that at that age. He almost quadrupled Pontiac sales during his time with the division, which was a phenomenal achievement. The man.
What I want you guys to notice is that he kept saying his accolades, which are all facts. And you got haters. Haters are like, oh man, you're bragging. Either that or I'm just recounting the facts. You heard me? And the important thing is he was a man in a hurry. He was a man on a mission. He wasn't waiting for anybody. He wasn't waiting for his turn. He wasn't waiting till he was old enough. He was breaking down the doors. When you're the youngest this and that, and you can say the youngest this or that like 5 times, that lets you know that he was on the fast track. And that's really how it should be. Figure out what you want to do and press on forward. All gas, no brakes, okay? That's what's going to get you to the top. Shout out to Mamba. He writes, what should I wear to a black tie networking event? My guess is a black tie. But I tell you what, you should wear something that'll make you stand out, something that'll be remarkable. Probably a black tie would be a minimum, but the question is, what can you do with the other aspects of the outfit? You'd be a little bit different if you wore a black tie with a dress shirt that's not white, right? Because everyone else will pretty much be wearing a black tie. If they have decency, they'll be wearing a bow tie, hopefully not an adjustable band, hopefully a self tie. And then they'll have a plain white dress shirt and they'll wear a dark suit, probably a black suit. And so the question is, how can you bring a little bit of sauce to that and make it conversation worthy?
Had a vision and could see the vision through. I mean, he took a failing division and turned it into the top division within GM within a very short time.
The dealers, saw him as their messiah. He could do no wrong as far as they were concerned.
You get to a certain point, and all of a sudden, and particularly in large corporations, you're living a lifestyle you can't believe. You have a fleet of private planes at your disposal. Everywhere you go, there's cars to meet you at the airport. They take your luggage to the hotel and check it in, and you basically do nothing. It was a pretty incredible life.
A success, man. It's a beautiful thing. And he got his, he earned his. And that's waiting for all of you if you would do what it takes, and if you would believe in yourself, and if you would not waste any time consuming and use more time, invest more time producing. And also, if you make sure that you're with the right people, you're around the right people. When I talk about wealth through unity, there's so many things that you can live as a millionaire without being a millionaire. For example, right now I'm trying to decide where my next trip is. And what I would like to do is I would like to charter a flight. And so, for example, say if I pay, to travel first class somewhere, it might be like 6,000, 7,000. And yeah, you got first class, which is nice. However, if we take 30 people and we all put in 3,000, then we can just charter our own jet, right? We can just get our own jet for all of us, and it'd be just us, our people, our women, our family. And that's an amazing feeling. And you don't have to be a millionaire to do that. Now, could I do it myself? Yeah, I could do it myself, but it's better together and it's more cost effective for everyone. It's wealth through unity.
He was outspoken. He was a little bit off center. He was dating starlets and so on, which is not the normal procedure at General Motors at all. That's the level where you're supposed to sort of sit back and coast to your retirement.
By 1973, he was tipped for the top job at General Motors, but he wasn't the type to be constrained by corporate politics. It was time to go it alone. Instead of GMC on the boot, John wanted the badge to read DMC.
I think it sort of came to me one time when I was making the new car announcement, and we're telling the dealers and the public what a dramatic and miraculous new car this was. And it really wasn't. It was the same old car with the fenders bent a little bit differently.
You know what I want you to notice is that critical instinct. You see, most people, they just accept what is said, and that shows you that they don't have the mark of intelligence or genius. It's the person that is very attuned and expert where they can look at something and say, no, that can be improved, or no, like I would have done that differently, which when I do it differently, that's me doing it right, whereas everyone else did it wrong. And it's that critical ability to look at product and refine product and to be a master of product development. And that's why I tell you guys when we're talking about product and people will say, hey, what should I do? Do something do something you're familiar with, do something you're excited about. Like, for example, you guys have seen me wear that Michael Jackson Thriller remake jacket like 4 times on live. I have an extensive wardrobe. I could wear new clothes every day, but I wore that several days because I want to see how it feels. I figured, I want to increase the size of the armhole. And, the strip at the bottom, the strip, it only goes halfway around. I want it to go the full length, and the sleeves, the adjustable sleeve is not correct. We need to change this. Maybe we should opt for buttons. And the collar, like we need to cut it back a little bit more so it's more pointed and gives you that Fonzarelli feel. You have to deal with products that you comprehend, that you know well, and that you're excited about, and ideally products that you use. You see, like if I were to create a tampon, it'd be really hard for me to improve it because I don't use it. And in fact, I can't use it. And so I can't get the fine details of how it feels, like what the applicator is like, how it feels when it's inside, how long can it last? When should you throw it away? Like what the improvements would be, I'd have not the foggiest idea. I'd have to hear other people and get it secondhand. So you really want intimate connection to your products. You don't want to fall in love with the product. You really got to treat it like a broad. You heard me? If it ain't giving nothing back to you, kick it to the curb, get a new one. But the fact is, You want to fall in love with product in as much as you want to give it the best opportunity to survive on the market. And he definitely was an expert in his field, and he had taste and he had intelligence and he was willing to take risks. And that's what gave him the opportunity to be in position. But also remember this, he was a good business guy. And one thing I want you guys to know is no matter what someone's doing, I just look at them as a business person. It's a form of a hustle. It's a form of a hustler, which is to say that if you're doing well in whatever your profession is, you're a good hustler. It just turns out that you might hustle as a basketball player. You might hustle as a tech CEO. You might hustle as a swimmer. You might hustle as a musician. You might hustle as a textiles expert. You might hustle as a marketing consultant. But you're in it for the money. Like no matter what the pursuit is, you're in it for the money. If you're in business. Now, if you're in nonprofit, it should be different. There's a lot of people lying. You have fake activists like Charleston White. It's like, show me what bro is doing that he doesn't get paid for. Show me an activist that's in the like trying to help the youth and do criminal justice reform who was not also a criminal, who was not also a rat. Show me someone sincere. It's kind of hard to find those people. Why? Because you don't hear about them, because they're doing it quietly and effectively. The people who are loud about it, those are profiteers. And there's nothing wrong with profit, but there's much wrong with lying about your intentions. I personally hate rats. I want you guys to know, if you follow me and you like rats, please don't follow me, because we're all about morality here. When I come on here to speak, this I consider philanthropy. I consider this me doing something good for the people. I'm not here to entertain you. I'm here to teach. There's no one else that's doing a review on John Delorean, because many of them who could speak about it don't know about him. They don't have the business pedigree. They don't have the understanding of human nature and what it takes to actually be successful across the board. You have people who get lucky at YouTube. They get lucky at social media. But if you stop their social media, they're going to go broke. Me, if you stop social media, I still got 100 money machines. If you stopped all 100 of those money machines, I'm going to reformulate, adapt, and I'll be back hustling, because I'm a money getter. And I've been like that since I was a young ball. I'm talking about 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. And you can read about that. Those are something called the facts. In my book, I break it down to you. Why did I write a book this thick and it took me 10 years to write it? Because I started off in rocky circumstances and I wanted it to be easier for you. This is an autobiography, but I really wrote it about you, which is to say this book gets you to think about you. And guess what? If you want to get to the high level, it's going to be about you. It's not going to be about your parents. It's not going to be about your skin color and your gender and your orientation. It's going to be about how hard did you work? How focused were you? Did you write down your goals? Did you wake up early? Did you tell that broad to stop bothering you and stop texting you so you could focus? Did you make the sacrifice? Did you go hard? Did you fail? Get back in the car and get back after it. That's what it's going to be based on. It's not going to be based on anything else. Anything other than that is a lie. And do not get poisoned with those liars and those bums who tell you things like, oh, money's the root of evil. Hell nah. Money is the root of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. You hear me? Man, I've seen some beautiful antique cars that'll make me want to cry, man. I've seen some beautiful beaches around the world that just make you feel soft inside. I've been to the most astounding ballets and plays around the planet Earth, and it all took money. Money is not the root of evil. Greed is the root of evil, but also poverty is the root of evil. The lack of money is the root of evil, and it's those men that are too lazy. They don't believe in themselves. They're naturally weak, and instead of trying to lift the weight and become strong, they rather discourage you and lie and make excuses and say they can't make it unless they're elite, say they can't make it unless they're Jewish, say they can't make it unless they were born with a silver spoon. Well, what they need to do is step back into reality, because they are lying and making excuses, and do not let their excuses become your excuses. The number one thing I used to tell myself when I was down bad was, Marquette, if you're as smart as you think you are, show me the money. If you're as smart as you think you are, where is that? Where it's at. You heard me? Why does the outside not match the inside? If you think on the inside you got the goods, why can't you put it in your hand? Huh? Come on now. People lying out here, Brody. Anyways, shout out to the ballers. Baller alert. Ermias writes, appreciate the work. You are welcome, sir, and I appreciate you. I thank those of you who are thankful people, who are grateful people. That is a form of wealth. Thank you to those who hit the like button. There's a multitude watching right now. If you're watching me and you didn't hit the like button and you never sent a super chat, you're a hater. That's what you are. You're a hater trying to benefit and freeload off of me. You could at least click the like button for your own spiritual goodness. You dig? Yeah, you might be a hater and don't even know it, but I'm here to tell you what the truth is. Shout out to Mr. Santos supporting the work. Appreciate you. Yes, indeed, man. I click the like button or I'm going to turn off the video because listen, if I don't like the video, why would I watch it? You heard me? So I'm either going to click the like and continue watching or I'm going to stop watching. But you're a hater if you're like, I ain't going to click the button, but I'm going to watch and try to benefit. That's crazy. But it lets you know that you are spiritually polluted and you got to get out of that. You got to, because you will never grow. You'll never win. You'll never benefit.
And so I thought, I just can't keep doing this. And so I decided to go off and try to do something more ethical from the standpoint of something that would last. And
I want you all to notice that point about ethical. It has been said that there are two stories. There's the truth and then there's what people say. You know, people often try to dress up things. Me, I just keep it a bean out here. I tell you, money's important. If I'm on a video and I think the topic is stupid, I'll tell you, this topic's dumb. Or I'll tell you, hey, I'm not going to be here very long. I'm just here for you. I don't even think this is important. I'm doing this because it's trending news. If you guys support, I'll keep it going. If not, I'm out of here really quick, really quick. There'll be other times you'll see me talking. Man, I might have talked for an hour straight. Didn't take any pauses, any breaks, because I feel in my heart that it's important for you to know fill in the blank. But the problem is that we have a lot of people lying their life for different reasons. I'm not saying he's a bad guy, but what I am telling you, and this is Book of Dark Truths type stuff, he's trying to assign ethics and morality to his choice to go out and start his own car company, when in reality it's that you wanted the grandeur of putting your name on an automobile. You wanted the recognition, the money, and the fame. There's nothing wrong with that. So I'm just telling you guys, is like, think twice about people's stories, because people got a lot of stories. Shout out to Mr. Kendricks, right? Saint, by any chance, will the big game conference footage be available for purchase online? I'm not sure. He writes also, which membership on what platform would you recommend to stay up to date? Won't miss future opportunities. All of Peace of the Saints. All the memberships are the same. The only difference between, say, patreon.com/the Saint and the Sinner is that Patreon is owned by Patreon. Whereas the Assassin, THESASN.com, you click join. That's owned by me. You could also join marquettism.com or marquettedevon.com options. And there you go. And we look forward to, you know, God willing, we do have more events and you're able to attend. The future is uncertain, and I advise everyone to live like the future is uncertain, because that's the truth. And you have to have a balance between planning for the future, but also maximizing on happiness in the present, and also understanding and planning around the things that make you feel enriched, make you feel happy, the things that give you motivation. Don't miss out on anything. Some of the best advice I've heard on living life is don't miss out. And there have been times that I've missed out for silly reasons, but increasingly I try to make sure that I'm there. You know, when it's something that I know I'll enjoy, or even something that I suspect I'll enjoy, I make sure that I'm there. And the time that I'm not doing things that I enjoy deeply, I really try to invest into working hard and working feverishly to exhaustion, so that when I do take off my time, I don't need to think about work. I can just indulge in the present wholly. Shout out to Mark. He comes in by Venmo. He writes, Peace of the Saints. Thank you for taking your time to do this content. As someone related to a family full of junkies and losers, bro, are we in the same family? Are you a Burton? He writes, I appreciate a successful man's perspective on things. Oh, absolutely. And you see, I've been tempted to change my last name because my name is going to be so great. I don't want people who aren't great to have the privilege of having that name. You heard me? I was damn near tempted to change my last name, but I've already won so much in life that, you know, it'd be a pity to change it now. But just know that I've considered it. Shout out to Victor, comes in by Venmo. He writes, good morning. As a member, I want to offer support in all ways. My church utilizes a technology to text all members with updates. Would it be beneficial for you to have me look into how we can do the same? We can't rely on Google notifications alone for the movement. You know, I think that the easier step for now is for me to go live at a regular time. I'm testing that with the 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Sunday with the business lives, but there are some things we should think about how to do. I got the executives coming in a few weeks, and I want to open up the platform for them to post because though, of course, I am relevant, I'm not the most important thing in this movement. The most important thing is you, which is to say us together, the community, the SaaS. And I want people to be able to see what we're doing because we have so many phenomenal things going on all the time that I don't speak enough about because, I just don't have the time. And also, fortunately, I've organized a strong enough apparatus and leadership structure that a lot of things happen without my knowledge, and that's good. And I want my executives around the world to be able to share content, posts, videos about what they're doing, because I know for sure if you guys watching really knew the extreme value that you get out of membership, like in-person, social, exercise, game spinning, all this stuff at no cost, everyone would be a member. Everyone would learn and embrace this way of life because it is the superior way. And I know that some people really need to be among great men so that they can soak up what it is to be a man. I see in my comments, some folks who are like, Charleston White, I didn't like him at first, but he's growing on me. I'd love to see you two guys debate. Not a serious person. I'm not here to entertain you. I don't like rats at all. I don't want to collaborate with rats. I don't want to be among rats. I don't want to help rats make money. There's only one thing to do with rodents is to exterminate them. But just the mere fact that someone has such a low level of integrity that they respect or they're entertained by, they watch someone who did a crime with their friends, ratted on their friends, sent their friends to prison for decades, and then laughs about it. No, that's such a low level of integrity. But you as a male to think that that's okay, that's unacceptable. I understand if his mom still deals with him because, that's her child, but everyone else should be like, you're a rat. You're forever out. You don't get to tour. You don't get to do anything. You're a rat. You heard me? So I say that to say, we need men among men because too many people are isolated at home learning everything they know from the internet. And it's like there's no values, there's no decency, there's no sense of right and wrong. And we also have to eradicate adult content because I think it's turning a lot of you boys fruity. We got such a high number of fruitcakes. And I think it's because they grow up watching adult content since they're very young. And they've been watching another man's phallus and scrotum for too long. And it's kind of got them a little bit funny. And they probably seen them, Transformers. And there's no one around to tell them like, yo, that's weird. And so they grow up on it thinking it's okay. And they kind of like half skittle guzzling. You dig? And that's why due to that and the lack of testosterone and integrity, they can't understand my message is lost on them. So we need to bring them among mentally healthy men to raise them up. Yeah, it's a sick world out here. Shout out to Drip Lord. He writes, I appreciate lives like these. I'm going to have to catch the replay, going to get my 30 minutes of sweat in, plus some more. Peace of saints. That's a beautiful thing, man. And stay disciplined. Stay disciplined, stay on your schedule, stay keeping your priorities. And that's why I tell people, when I see people lying in the comments and saying, oh man, I don't have $1 even to support, but hey, good work. I'm like, first off, you do have $1. You're lying. And here's the most important thing. If you do not have $1, and I have been there, you should not watch me. You should not watch me on YouTube. You should not watch anyone. You should be on monster.com, indeed.com, LinkedIn. You should be putting in applications and you should be trying to get you a basic income. That's the most important thing, whether you're male or female. If you're down to zero, you don't have $1 to give, you need to be focusing on that. That's your most important thing. I love when people watch me and support my work and, make me feel cool and important. But if you don't have $1, forget the saint in the center, forget YouTube, forget social media, get back to the basics. Make sure that you're straight. Make sure that you have some savings. You save some money so that one day your money can save you. Okay. Those are called priorities. And I really mean it. Carrying on.
That's where the stainless steel car concept came from.
Delorean left General Motors with little more than a few ideas sketched out on the back of an envelope. Needing someone to give his vision life.
So that's a lie. And I hate when people tell these fake stories. DeLorean left General Motors with little more than idea. No, he was high ranking. So theoretically, he should have had a decent amount of savings. He had an extraordinary network. He had a track record of being very impressive in the automotive industry, a record and resume, really comparable to no one. He outpaced all of his peers. So he didn't leave with nothing. He left with a lot of social capital, probably some level of financial capital. Heavy industry automotive is very expensive. So certainly he's going to need to raise hundreds of millions of dollars, which is fine. He's the guy to do it. So he left in the perfect position. This is complete and utter nonsense. But that's why you can't trust historians. You can't trust reporters. You can't trust journalists because they're not the doers in this world. The Robert Greens, he can write about power, but he never had power. He doesn't know how to get power. He's never made a display of that. He can get a couple bucks peeling it off of dummies who are not very well read. But the fact of the matter is that the watcher does not understand as well as the doer. So a doer can look at another doer and say, oh, I understand this guy. I get it. I can recount his story. I fundamentally understand. The watcher doesn't understand the thoughts of the doer. The watcher listens to what the doer says, not knowing what the doer is thinking is different than what he says. Sometimes you're thinking one thing, you say another thing, huh? Book of Dark Truths. If you don't have the Book of Dark Truths, you probably need it, huh? Understand that.
Life, he approached the man considered to be the most innovative car designer in the world, the Italian Giorgetto Giugiaro.
Giorgetto Giugiaro.
Delorean's unique
Giorgetto
concept was to
Giugiaro.
produce a rust-proof, eco-friendly sports
Giorgetto Giugiaro. Giorgetto Giugiaro. Meatball. Pizza pie. Hey.
car with safety of paramount importance. The designs were stunning. It was christened the DMC-12 and would retail at just $12,000.
That's crazy. Listen, $12,000 was worth a lot of money back then. And when you hear things like that, you're like, dang, this car was $12,000. That's because the globalist, Israel, your politicians who hate you, the citizen, they have robbed you of a good life, of an easy life. When I say that we are in revolutionary times, that is why. A car was $12,000. It was within reach. Now the same car, $12,000? No, sir, Bob. We're talking about $250,000. We can't start the conversation till you got $200,000. Why is that the case? Why? You've been bamboozled, hoodwinked. You've been stolen from. That's why. And it is not an accident. I'm telling you, I know that we are in revolutionary times because Texas, the citizens of Texas just figured out some of their state taxes are being sent to Israel, more than $4 million. And once they did an audit, they said, we want to stop this. And then Abbott, the governor there, said, no, you can't stop it. What? The guy who's running for mayor of New York City had to make a pledge to Israel. All the candidates, when they were debating, they said, will you visit Israel? Everyone's like, yes, of course I'll visit Israel. Yes, of course I'll visit Israel. You're running for mayor of New York City. You're not even supposed to be an international agent. It's a city. Granted, one of the most relevant cities in the world. But then they came to this one guy who I believe is the favorite of the people. Probably won't win because things are rigged. And on the off chance that things are not rigged, you should still vote. He says, well, I'm more so focused on making sure that the subway runs, that New York City is safe, that we can make sure that our children have good education. They're like, yeah, but will you visit Israel? It's like, what? What does that have to do with anything? So yes, we've been infiltrated. In fact, they're trying to get legislation now that will give you jail time and an extraordinary fine for criticizing the state of Israel. It's unacceptable. Come on now. It's the world that we in. Shout out to Pharrell, writes Peace to the Saints. And that's another reason we must come together in person, build bonds, build organization, build structure, build protocols, because the revolution is here. Oh, yes. We are in revolutionary times. You see, you've read about so many things in your history books. You read about World War II and all these other things. You read about the Third Reich and all of these revolutions. Well, what you're experiencing right now is what builds into the revolution. The unrest and uprisings you're seeing in Southern California that are cropping up in different parts of the country, including Texas, these may be the beginnings of what could turn into civil war, what could turn into revolution and rebellion. But the problem is that they have no leader and no ideology. They're rebelling against a law. They're not rebelling against the whole system. Imagine you take down that law, you still got the whole system, the whole swamp is intact. It's bigger than that. Shout out to Mr. Gopar. He writes, congrats on the house purchase. The landscape was beautiful. Those lilacs looked super healthy. Tuition, Peace of Saints. I appreciate you. And right now we're having trouble getting our landscaper out. We took bids from like 5 people. The one guy won it. He's like, oh, it's raining today. I'm like, bro, it's not even raining. Get your out here and get to work. Bro, they rained for 10 minutes, bro. Quit playing games out here.
Building this car wasn't going to come cheap. Delorean had little or no money himself. He had to find...
See, that's so inaccurate. He had little or no money. Which is it? Which is it? It's not no money. He had money. He didn't have enough to build a car company, which is mostly everybody on earth, right? Come on, stop being stupid. So I hate hearing things like that. Inaccurate.
Backers. Fast. With only a concept car to sell, the Silver Fox approached his old friends, the car dealers, to help him raise capital for the project. They didn't let him down, and soon he had the first 8 million in the bank. But this was small change to what was really needed. Never one to miss an opportunity, John figured that rather than go to the traditional car makers, he would exploit countries with high unemployment.
The Industrial Development Authority, the IDA, came along to me and they said some of their people in America were talking to a man called Delorean, who had a project for a revolutionary new type of car. When the IDA gave a sort of indicative offer, he came back a few days later and said that he had a higher one from Puerto Rico.
And see, that's business. That's the nature of a businessman, which is to say he was going out trying to find capital. And the moment he got an offer, he said, oh, I got a better one. What can you guys do? Can you add something to make it more interesting for me? And that's what businessmen do. We negotiate. You see, peons, consumers, imbeciles, average people, which is to say losers. You are used to going into the store. You walk into Walmart, you see the Snickers. The bar is priced at $2.10. That's not negotiable. It is what it is. But bosses, we're used to going into situations where it might be displaying $2.10 retail, and we can negotiate it down to what we want. That's the world that we're in. Peons, consumers, losers are in the consumption game. They're in the buying the set retail price, the suggested retail price. They don't get to negotiate. They don't have the instinct to negotiate. They don't have the skill set to negotiate. Conference 3, I talk about negotiation, which is a tool you need not only in business, but also in personal relationships. Everything is a negotiation. When you're dating a woman and you're trying to figure out, well, who's going to have dominance in the relationship, who gets to come home and sit down while the other person starts to prepare dinner, who has to clean up the dishes after the meal is cooked. Those are all negotiations. How will we interact with each other? Whose parents get to live in the house? Those are all negotiations. How do you negotiate in a way where you win, but everybody feels like they won? There's so many layers to life you may be unaware of, and you're losing due to your lack of understanding and knowledge. Come on now. Yes, indeed. Educate yourself. Shout out to the double baller alert. Shout out to Teddy, came in via Venmo. He writes, peace of the saints. I would like to update. I have secured the IT compliance director position. May everyone give this man a round of applause. You should all be very happy for him. On the last live, he told us that he was going for this one, and he got it. That's a big win. Very, very happy for you. Give this man a round of applause. He writes, and just received the offer letter an hour ago. I bet you're over the moon. And I want to encourage you in the Boss University, and I admonish everyone to get it if you haven't gotten it. It talks about something called man's happiness cycle. And I'll just give you guys a little taste on it, which is after you achieve, celebrate. Teddy, I want to encourage you to take out some time to celebrate yourself or allow the people around you to celebrate you, because that is big. That's a great accomplishment. It's life change. It's life improvement, in fact, and you deserve to celebrate and be celebrated. So may we all commend him in the chat. And I want to see everyone do it too, because that's a big win. That's a big position. A director level is high level, and in tech, that's very impressive. He writes, I secured the position due to my hard work, absolutely, and the relationships I built. Oh, you better believe it. At the high level, relationships are everything. He writes, now I'm about to go get this workout in. Hey, this man's still getting it in. That's focus. Yes, indeed, but do celebrate. You deserve it. Shout out to Darren, comes in via PayPal, and he writes, tuition, peace of the saints. Shout out to Darren, been a long time saint, always supporting the work. Uchenna comes in as well. He writes, email. And Uchenna, we got to get you out to the plantation because I know you're really about this, and I want you to, help give us some vision. He writes, I reached out in regards to the big game conference. Oh, okay, very good. Do me this favor. Resend whatever email that was right now, and I'll set it aside so we can take a look at it. May I acknowledge Giovanni writes, super duper pimpin', spitting game per usual. I appreciate you. Shout out to the real ones. Carrying on.
The IDA got suspicious about that, and I must say I was suspicious about it too. But that was his method of operating.
As a manager of a public company, I have an obligation to see where I can make the best arrangement for my shareholders.
He would say to one, well, I'm getting a better deal from another one.
He thought that I wouldn't resist whatever he looked for.
He and his people would endeavor to, get the best deal they could by some toing and froing between different candidates.
I felt we shouldn't go on with it.
It's believed the IDA pulled out of a possible deal because they considered the project too risky.
The spin that he put on the whole thing after we had said no to him.
So this is a really important piece right here, is narrative. And I've said many times the truth is lost in our society. The truth has always been lost, which is to say that people have always said what is advantageous to them. Sometimes they lie on purpose, and other times they're so deluded they lie because they cannot acknowledge or accept the truth. But what you're hearing right now are from the people who he proposed the deal to. When they declined the deal, he couldn't have the PR debacle of it being known that others didn't want his deal. So then he basically said, oh, well, I didn't want to work with them because of X, Y, and Z, to make sure that the deal was still appealing to other countries and governments that might want to take him on, particularly the government of Puerto Rico, which is ironic because we have that in common, because I did a deal with the government of Puerto Rico and a couple of the European states as well. And so this was all a part of his negotiation process. And the funny thing is, when you're negotiating big numbers and you have a number of different opportunities, but none of them are locked in, it can be nerve-wracking. But the key is to keep it player. And he did a great job at that. And what you're going to find is that when you really are sharp, sometimes you can take those transferable skills and apply it to different areas. Because when you meet a woman and you really want her, you don't want to show her that you're too thirsty, right? And the same thing is true in business. When you want to do a deal, you don't want to show the other side of the deal that you're too thirsty because they're going to run the price up. You heard me? So you have to know how to play your cards. Yes, indeed. Shout out to the people congratulating Teddy, which is not enough people. It's not enough people. Yeah, there you go. Congratulate. There you go. There you go. Okay, there we go. That's what I like to see. That's a beautiful thing because we have to celebrate each other. So many of us do great things and we don't get celebrated. You heard me? If we're not going to celebrate one another, who will? It's a cold world out here. You see somebody do something good, celebrate them. And I tell you what, you're going to feel better too. Yes, absolutely. Because their accomplishments are like your accomplishments. I love to see people who are my friends winning, earning more money. I like to have rich friends, don't you? Come on now. Carrying on.
Didn't impress me either.
I didn't feel I should spend my investors' money in a capricious and arbitrary way.
He seems to have a plausible sort of answer for everything. And I'm suspicious of someone who has a plausible answer for every difficulty, because some difficulties are huge and they can't be overcome that easily.
With the Irish out of the way, the Puerto Ricans thought they had the deal sewn up, but they hadn't reckoned on Delorean's blatant opportunity. He had heard of a place even more in need of a good news story and a government ready to invest. He took a call from Belfast.
So this is a really important thing here, which is to say that where there appears to an average person to be problems or need or lack, to the hustler, to the opportunist, you see, oh, you guys might look at the situation, just see buildings burning. You might see strife. But when I look at this situation, I see need. I see a need that I can fulfill. I see an offer that they can make to me. And that's the difference between a hustler and a normal mortal. A mortal does not look and see everything that's there. For example, a mortal, a fool, a loser, an average person, they look at it and they say, well, the glass is half full, or maybe they'll say half empty. I'll look at it and say, no, the glass is totally full. In fact, it's overflowing. And it doesn't matter how much water is in there, because there's the water and then there's the air above it, which is air not something? It must be, because when you immerse yourself in water, you need air. So air is something. It exists. There's content to it. So it's overflowing. It's just that you fail to account for all the value. The water's there. The air is there. You fail to account for all of the value, which is why a true hustler looks at something and he sees where he can win. He sees where he can extract value. He sees where he can add value. A mere mortal looks at it, and if it's not obvious, if the job opportunity isn't obvious, they miss it. They miss it. It gets by them. Yeah, they miss it. And just like a super player, for example, a super player might look at something and he sees like, you know what? I think I can slide that short. I think I can slide on Shorty. A normal human being might look at him like, oh, I don't know. She's at work and, she's not really like, she looks kind of mad right now. It's like, okay, bro. Yeah, live like that. But anyways, basically, he went into a place that was in chaos. And despite it not being an obvious place to build cars because it's not a part of the Italian heritage of car buildings, of car building, and despite it having social unrest, which doesn't seem like a good opportunity to do much of anything, he said, okay, I think I can make a proposal here. And he did. And that was smart.
10 years of conflict had left almost 2,000 people dead, and the highest unemployment in Western Europe made Northern Ireland an investment-free zone. The Labour government was desperate to get men off the dole and away from the paramilitaries.
Roy Mason had this mantra, which was jobs, homes, and hope. And he perceived that as the only real alternative to a military solution to deal with the IRA.
I think the people in Belfast were quite proactive about it. And I think they made the first move, if I'm not mistaken, and said, hey, if this is going, we want to have a look at it.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Sensing a better deal, Delorean left the Puerto Ricans in mid-negotiation.
You heard that? He said, bro was midway in negotiation with the Puerto Ricans and dipped. That is such an important thing, which is, you're taught not to be a quitter. And I suffered under this understanding probably until I was in my early mid-20s. And that is the absolute worst advice to give someone who is diligent and hardworking, because we'll stick with it and we'll persist even when we shouldn't. Sometimes people try to force things to go through. Sometimes people won't take no for an answer. Sometimes the smartest thing to do, oh, you said no? Great, I'm gone. Let me find somebody who's going to say yes. The idea of don't take no for an answer is generally not smart. The idea of not being a quitter and sticking with it is generally not good in business. Sometimes you need to quit. If you have 10 products and 3 of them are never selling very well, now you have a bunch of inventory. You got to pay to store it. Stop selling those products. Quit those products, which is to say, put your money on the winning horse. And in this case, he was in mid-conversation with the Puerto Ricans and he saw a better opportunity. He got moving quickly. That's why he was the youngest this and that and this and that in the corporate structure with, was it General Motors? Whoever it was, it doesn't really matter because the story is about him. He's the star. And that's your key, is being the star, not for the fame, but for the money. Yeah, get something that you can add up. You dig? Yes, indeed. Shout out to Ralph, just became a member. And that's going to give you access to phenomenal content. And in fact, if you guys will remind me, the live session that I did last night, I'm going to make sure that's available for the members on YouTube as well. So keep an eye out for that.
And boarded a plane bound for Belfast. John made his pitch, and the government took the bait.
This is a car assembly plant. It's the United States market it's going for. The company have got 400 outlets already. They've got private investment behind it. They've got 30,000 orders already for the car.
Back in New York...
Wait, they've got how much for the car?
They've got 30,000 orders already for the car.
Okay, he said 30,000 orders for the car. I thought he said $30,000. Like, bro, what? Very good.
Back in New York, the Puerto Ricans thought all they had to do was sign on the dotted line. They had no idea there was another player.
That was crazy.
Did you get the impression at the time that you were negotiating it that you were involved in a race?
I was involved with competition, yes, but not a race.
Were you playing one off against the other?
Okay, so someone just asked him the dumbest question on earth. Were you playing one off against the other? Which is to say, were you negotiating for the best price? Were you using one person, one group, one country against the other one to drive up the price? Duh, doy, 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 doy. Of course, dummy, that's business. Now, is it going to sound good to say that? No. So what is he going to say? Probably something else. Let's have a listen.
I think that's making it sound a lot cruder than it was.
The British and the Northern Irish Development Agency secretly did the deal in just 46 days. The Puerto Ricans were still stuck in their New York hotel.
See, now 46 days is a long time, frankly. It could have been done in 46 hours, to be honest with you. Anything can be sped up except childbirth. But the fact of the matter is that speed kills. That's what we say in boxing. Speed kills. You know, some people hit really hard. That's cool. But it's the speed that is really the biggest factor. Speed in all things. You want to do it fast. And the good thing about speed is if you do the wrong thing and you do it fast enough, you can just do the right thing right after. You hear me? Yeah, do the wrong thing, mess it up, and then do the right thing correctly fast. Yeah, speed is the key. Shout out to Lion Writes, Peace of Saints. Excuse me for one moment. Hello. All right, let's get back to this work. Got a lot of deliveries. Gentleman writes, how do Marco Rubio, bro, Marco Rubio is a dirtbag. I've known that for a long time, though. I've been saying that since he first made a presidential run, which he had no chance at, big-eared rascal. He writes, Keith Kellogg, Steve Witkoff fare against master foreign affairs knights like Sergei Lavrov. Oh, man, Sergei Lavrov is a beast, bro. He's a beast. Primakov, or even Vladimir Putin. Well, Vladimir Putin is really good at domestic politics in Russia, but I think internationally he's pretty unimpressive. He does all right with international trade and deal making, but in terms of military affairs, I think he's very weak. Sergei Lavrov is a real gem, and then Putin should be like really thankful to have him. And speaking of such, shout out to Zudor, shout out to all the folks who make this thing of ours really special. Shout out to Chris, shout out to Josiah. Shout out to Mitchell, shout out to Jabrizi, shout out to Dan Lee, shout out to Ramsey, shout out to all my executives, all the people I'm not naming right now. Do forgive me. Shout out to the ATL section, shout out to the whole Florida section, the Texas section. Shout out to everyone who makes this thing work, because the quality of your team is going to supplement your deficiencies, and it's also going to allow things to be done that you can't do. And Sergei Lavrov is a great asset to Vladimir Putin. The only challenge is that Vladimir Putin doesn't have a Henry Kissinger behind him. If he had a Henry Kissinger, then this would be a whole different ballgame. Ukraine would have been a very short affair, and it would have been obliterated and then confiscated. But he doesn't, and he's not a monster. And unfortunately, sometimes life calls for you to be a monster, and I think he's failing at that. But Marco Rubio is ruthless. He's a follower. He's a yes man. And none of those people named really matter that much. Sergei Lavrov is a great asset. Vladimir Putin is militarily weak, not in terms of his military, but in terms of his military strategy. Thank you for the question. Carrying on.
After these great inducements they offered us, that was probably a more logical place for us to go.
It made, I think, probably headlines in every national and provincial newspaper, and it was perceived as a significant coup for the government.
The feeling in the North was slightly triumphalist, in some quarters anyway. They thought that they had sort of got one over on Dublin, as it were.
The Irish Industrial Development Authority considered it too risky an investment for them to take.
Well, they said that when they'd lost it. To be perfectly honest, if I'd have lost it, I would have been probably saying the same thing.
Is it true that the Secretary of State, Mr. Mason, told the head of the Department of Commerce that he was to give Delorean, quotes, everything he wants?
No.
I want you guys to understand that when you're doing business at the high level, you are always working with the government. And if you're not, you'll be victim of the government. And what Delorean was able to do is essentially put together a public-private partnership, which I've done several times in many different countries. I've done it in the country of South Korea. I've done it in the territory of Puerto Rico, and I've done it with the country of China. And a public-private partnership is very helpful. It allows you to access grant funding. It allows you to access loans, air quotes, that don't have to be repaid. It allows you to get advantage. And it is something that every big business must do to ensure their survival. For example, Apple's failings at this might cause them to have to relocate all of their manufacturing from China to India or somewhere else, which means that they're having to make huge new investments, and they're going to have to reskill a whole workforce. And it's the failings of government relations. If you want to see mastery in government relations, look at APAC. That's mastery in government relations. But the fact of the matter is that John Delorean was really good at this. And when you're in the automotive industry, which is an industry that is very capital and labor intensive, you are going to need to have partners in government. And so He did the right thing. And the funny thing is that the government bureaucrats are never as sharp as the businessmen, right? Of course not. They're not as sharp. They're not as knowledgeable. They're not as experienced. They're easily bribed. They're not as wealthy. And so basically the businessman outfoxes the government bureaucrat, gets the government bureaucrat to hand over the taxpayers' money. Then he enriches himself. And then sometimes he'll pay bribes back to the government bureaucrat. It's kind of how the world works. And that is kind of what you would need to change unless you're the big business guy, right? If you're just the everyday citizen, you're going to get screwed and taken up the backside every single time. Shout out to Omari, comes in by Venmo. He writes, congratulations to Ted on getting the IT director position. I've been job hunting for over a year and it's been a terrible experience. Yes, it is a terrible experience. I've been in that experience myself. So I applaud anyone who can get hired in this job market. Peace of saints. Omari, I'll tell you the funny thing, truth be told, it actually is a good job market right now. That's how bad the market always is. But right now it's technically a good job market. I kid you not. So I'm wishing you well. And I've been there. I absolutely despise searching for jobs and sending in all these applications. You don't get a call back. Shout out to Jing C. He writes, peace of the saints. The perks different. What's the perks difference in moving up from entry level to professional tier in SASN? I'm looking to upgrade soon. Very good question. At the second level, you get to request videos, which is one major perk. It should be listed on all of the tiers there. So if you look at the tier, especially if you're on patreon.com/the Saint in the Center, it'll tell you what the perks are. And thank you. I appreciate the support and congratulations on your increased prosperity and contribution. I acknowledge Uchenna. It looks like he sent another email. He writes, I'm experiencing a situation where I decide to persist and it costs me a minimum of 100,000 that I've actually spent and in time probably double that on the lower end. My greed and my immaturity lead me to think I was able to continue doing that and it would not affect my efficiency. This is a lesson that I will not need to go through again. I sent you the email. I will check it later. Okay, I got that email, by the way. Enjoy the rest of your day. Yeah, exactly. And you know what? You're going to lose money. You're going to lose girlfriends. You might lose family members. Hopefully you don't lose a limb, right? But everything else is replaceable, and especially money. And that's the good news. And when you figure that out, you're going to play the game harder. You're going to play the game aggressively, and you're going to get big wins. You're going to get big L's too. But as long as the W's outsize the losses, all is well. Shout out to Dwayne. He writes, I apologize if my recent tuition submissions weren't received. I didn't realize that it was asking for a shipping address and place in my bank. Okay, got you. Fair enough. I appreciate you, Dwayne. Thank you for supporting the work. Carrying on.
Oh, I never saw that, and I was never involved with discussions at all like that. Certainly, we went all out to get it.
The Labour government was ecstatic. They offered £53 million of taxpayers' money in grants, low-interest loans, and a greenfield site on which to build a space-age factory. Delorean.
I'm going to rewind that so you guys hear that.
Government was ecstatic. They offered £53 million of tax.
53 million pounds. Remember that the British pound is stronger than the US dollar. So 53 million pounds, maybe that's like 80,000, 90,000, excuse me, $90 million. But that was way back many decades ago. So that's like, what, like $200 million?
Taxpayers' money in grants, low-interest loans, and a greenfield site on which to build a space-age factory.
They gave them money straight out, grants, low-interest loans, and land to build a factory. That's a lot. That's a lot of favors there. And what did he give them in return at this point? Nothing. That's business at the high level, little buddy. That's high-level business, little buddy. Shout out to Lion. He writes, please look up Lavrov's teacher, Putin's godfather. He authored a concept called, but the execution is not very good. Like, I just know that he's no Karl Haushofer. He's no Henry Kissinger, because Putin has described the red line, and the red line has been crossed like 9 times, separately, 9 distinct times, and they have not executed on their nuclear doctrine. So it's just, they just can't be that good. That's the problem, is you have to push the button at some point. You can't say, if you do this, I push the button, then they do it, and they do it, and they do it, and you don't do anything. It's the country that cried wolf. Shout to World Gone Mad. Appreciate you. Shout to the real ones. And appreciate Lion as well, supporting and educating me as well. Thank you.
DeLorean's only guarantee was to build the car.
they accomplish so much so quickly.
I just want to highlight to you guys the huge coup that Delorean has just staged. I want you to understand how enormous his accomplishment is. He got a foreign government. He's not a citizen there. He doesn't have any heritage there. He never even visited there before the deal. He got them to give him hundreds of millions of dollars, to give him land, to give him grants, to give him low interest loans, which probably won't even have to be paid back. That's often how that works. Israel's a great example of this kind of thing. So he got them to do all of that so that he could achieve his dream. He got them to finance his dream, a car that he puts his name on. He didn't give them anything back except he said, yeah, I'll build the car, my car that I want to build. It's extraordinary. That's a huge win. And it really flies in the face of people who say things like, oh, you need money to make money. Or you need negotiation skills. You need a mouthpiece. You need Boss University and the Master Communicator course. Mouthpiece, Master Communicator course. Ambition, self-belief, Boss University. Bro did his deal like a boss. You see, Elon Musk came in with a lot of PayPal money, and he was able to finance and bankroll certain deals, whether you're looking at a Tesla, SpaceX, or I think there's Tesla, SpaceX, or was it called the Boring Company? So he's able to bankroll a number of things. Twitter. But Delorean didn't have to bankroll, and he couldn't bankroll it. He used the game. He used the ism, man. Come on, man. Catch up. Don't let people lie to you talking about you need money to make money. No, those are their excuses.
All the little obstacles that we've had other places were just taken care of immediately.
Oh, I'm quite delighted. I think when I talk about the tide turning on industrial investment, I think this is one that proves it is.
I was glad that it was somebody else's money that was at risk other than the Irish taxpayers' money.
It didn't take long for the word to spread that a sports car was to be built in Belfast.
It's here on this greenfield site near Twin River Scene.
Because it was in this, basically there was a Catholic estate on one side and the Protestant community on the other side.
And the idea of
Now, this is funny, and this is why knowing history is so important. You had Catholics and Protestants, white Catholics and Protestants, obviously killing each other over various differences in ethnicity, perceived differences in religion and ethnicity, which is extraordinary because obviously they're more like each other than different. I mean, look how close they are regionally. But it's funny to know these things because today we think of it in terms of Muslim and Jewish, or Muslim and Christian. And there's also the Jewish-Christian conflict, which nobody talks about. It's mostly the Jews taking out the Christians. But the fact of the matter is that because we're ignorant of history, we don't know that there were, essentially Christian and Christian conflict, right? White and white conflict. And now we think of it in terms of Muslim Christian or Muslim Jewish. And we fail to understand the truth of humankind, that it's not a problem of Islam. It's not a problem of Judaism. It's not a problem of, it's a problem of people being closed-minded. It's a problem of poor public education. It's a problem of weak families. It's a problem of high unemployment. And these things added together create the perfect storm that cause certain demographics, typically childless, aimless, unemployed young men who are often virgins, to get wrapped up into things that are pretty detrimental for themselves and society. And this stuff is not new. History repeats. It's just that you don't know about it. Like, for example, what I'm telling you, and I named it such, I said, this is the original John DeLorean, and it is. This is the original Elon Musk, John DeLorean. Elon Musk is basically trying to be John DeLorean.
Sports car factory slap bang in the middle of West Belfast was a seriously risky venture. Nonetheless, it captured the imagination and there were no shortage of applicants.
I was watching television and there was this tall, bronzed American on, very charismatic, and he was speaking about all things, about starting a sports car factory in Belfast. I mean, that was just incredible.
This is an area of extremely high unemployment.
And it's worth noting that this is back when the American brand meant something. You say someone's American, and like, oh, he's American. Like, oh, he knows business. Oh, he's like connected. Oh, he has capital. American brands, and America still is the big dog. We're on a decline, but you go around the world, McDonald's, Nike, Kentucky Fried Chicken, we're still there. America's the big dog. The problem is our heavy industry, our automobiles are absent in foreign markets. And these are things that Trump is trying to fix, but mostly Trump is trying to get his rich buddies richer. And you'd never hear me say something like that because I'm not into class warfare. But it's just, unfortunately, it's so blatant. And it's sad. He's not helping anyone. People call him a racist. He is, but he's not even trying to help the average white guy. Like, the average white family is going to suffer under Trump. He's helping the elite in America. And, if you're an elite Indian, you're an elite Latino, you're an elite Black person, you're going to make some money with Trump. And it's just unfortunate to see him forget the average American, be them white, Black, Asian, or otherwise. May I acknowledge, shout out to Patrick supporting the work.
And setting up in that area.
It's also an area which has seen more than its fair share of the troubles, and it has none of the engineering tradition of other parts of Northern Ireland.
This was the start of something big. Maybe a wee bit of an ego thing, but I just wanted to be part of the Delorean setup.
There were stories which abounded at that stage of letters which were written to John Delorean, care of Delorean Detroit, from people who said, I want a job.
There's complete euphoria about this factory. In nearly every household, there's an application form.
Right away, I got...
So one, he is offering some level of value, right? Jobs in a place where there was extraordinary unemployment. But the bigger thing that he was offering, and this is something that you really need to understand in terms of influencing human beings, is he was offering hope. He was offering the hope to people who wanted hope. And in as much as that's the case, they will see in him and his opportunity what they wanted to see, even if the opportunity is not really there, even if it's illusory. And this is an important concept to understand about human nature. This is why you have certain figures that seem to do so well, even though they're like peddling like fish oil, essentially. Snake oil. Fish oil is actually really good for you. Get your fish oil, snake oil. That's what they're peddling.
Got my CV down and said, I want to work here. This is really exciting. I would love to work for Delorean.
I've been out of work now for just over a year. Since we heard this factory was coming, the people have got a kind of a hope, It's a hope that if they're lucky that they'll get a job in the plant.
And that sucks to be in the position of just hoping for a job. Like, goodness Lord, that sucks. Another reason to be an entrepreneur. But I want you guys to notice that it wasn't about the company. It was about John Delorean. And often when you're founding something new, it's really about the guy. Over time, the institution starts to stand, and it's more about the institution. That's why we know Chrysler, but we don't know the man Chrysler that created it. So at the beginning, the man matters a lot. Elon Musk matters a lot to Tesla. If Tesla stands the test of time, eventually only Tesla will matter. People will forget and not know the name Elon Musk decades down the road. So that lets you know when you're founding the company, who you are matters. Your credit score matters when you're raising millions of dollars from investors. It matters. Your track record matters. Your education and your network matters. Your track record in that industry matters. And that is why developing yourself as a man has to be a constant process. You cannot shortchange certain things. You might be able to go on the internet and fake it till you make it, but there's certain things in which you really can't fake it till you make it. The reason John Delorean was even allowed to create a car company, if you will, is because he had a serious background in the automotive industry. And Elon Musk, even though he didn't have a serious background in the automotive industry, he had a serious background in software, and cars are a lot more software now than they were in previous times. They were like nearly no software in previous times. They're a lot more software now. He also had a strong background in a complex industry, which is fintech. PayPal was very much so a pioneering company, not to say that he was a genius of any sort. He was similar to Bill Gates in that he's a pretty smart guy. He was smart enough to buy technology and also steal technology and hire the right people. So the person matters. The man that you are matters. Don't discount that, and do invest in yourself, because the good thing is that the knowledge that you gain in your life, you get to keep it. Sometimes you buy something and you don't get to keep it, or it wears out. You got to throw it away. Your knowledge, your understanding of the world, that will never wear out. That will never expire and spoil. So investing in meaningful, targeted education, it's always going to be a good investment.
It seems incredible. These guys have come over here to give us a chance, but how can they ever build a sports car in West Belfast.
Well, I think what it did to
Beautiful logo, very symmetrical, excellence in style. I want to thank Heels In, and I also want to thank all of you for being here to fellowship with me and enjoy this time. Until next time, peace of the saints.